The attacks on Lebanon were certainly spectaculars, and clearly that's what was intended. Why pages, mobile phones can be traced, mobile phones can be used to target you in terms of missiles, drones. Adding to the horror, we actually had walkie-talkies exploding. It's clear that at some point Mossad bought up a load of pages and a load of walkie-talkies, and of course inserted explosive devices. Those who were injured or killed. It includes wives, it includes children. The Iranian ambassador to Lebanon. It represents, a significant blow to Hezbollah. Not a deadly blow, but nonetheless a significant blow. But the main point about it surely is it's not how many they killed, it's the spreading of terror. It's the spreading of shock and awe. Of course, it took a state operation. I'm not holding my breath for the British government to classify Mossad as a terrorist organization and Israel as a terror state. Britain is tied in to the United States, and the United States is tied into supplying Israel with what it needs to be the regional superpower in the Middle East. And just to make sure, the United States has got two carrier fleets, not just an aircraft carrier, it's a whole flotilla of support ships, anti-missile ships, as well as these nuclear-powered aircraft carriers that will launch F-35s in the case, for example, if Iran retaliated using drones. Israel is pretty well defended. We've had the open declaration that Israel views the northern front as now more important than the southern front. So, in other words, in terms of Israel's wars of aggression, Gaza will continue, but it looks like set on opening up some sort of conventional war, i.e. a ground war in terms of southern Lebanon. Israel, got a bloody nose last time round in Lebanon, so they'll be not keen on repeating that. Maybe Netanyahu has his eyes on the Christian population in Lebanon, doing a deal with their political parties. Maybe ethnic cleansing of Lebanon, getting rid of the Muslim population in the south. He seems determined on war and act in the most provocative manner. And what you see on the other side, either because they're coordinated or simply because they recognize the overwhelming might of Israel when it comes to military capacity, is a holding back. Lebanon, Hezbollah is clearly holding back. Clearly, Iran is holding back. That's after, Israel striking at its embassy in Damascus and carrying out an assassination in Tehran itself, the Hamas leader. The only organizations that haven't held back here is clearly Hamas itself, with the audacious October 7th attack on Israel, and the Houthis in the Red Sea, and also launching from Yemen rockets against Israel. Netanyahu and those around him want a war. You can't say that it's simply a question of Likud, and you can't simply say it's a question of his coalition, because we have, for example, moves either afoot, but certainly publicly talked about, of replacing the existing defense minister, who's a fellow member of Netanyahu's Likud, with someone else. And that someone else, in terms of what I've been reading, could possibly be from without the existing coalition. So I don't know whether that means a split in Likud or bringing in to the existing coalition a new party. What they're trying to do is defy Biden, lesser the chances of Harris being elected on November the 5th, and hope that it's Trump is returned for a second term. Now, that doesn't mean, if that fails, it's a disaster. It's simply that in terms of at least the rhetoric, and certainly in this context, I take it seriously, Trump is equally as aggressive as Netanyahu. He's talked about finishing the job. He's talked about taking the war to Iran. Iran is pictured as the main sponsor of terrorism in the Middle East. What's the logic of it? I've already spoken about the possibility of ethnic cleansing in Lebanon, the establishment of some sort of Maronite state in the south of the country. That's a possibility. But also, of course, we need to recognize that the foundation of Israel itself in 1948 was based on the idea, the project of a greater Israel, which necessitates ethnic cleansing. And given that Israel wants the whole of Mandate Palestine, that means getting rid of substantial numbers of Palestinians from the West Bank and substantial numbers of Palestinians from the Gaza Strip. And when it comes to the West Bank, what that means, of course, is putting people over the other side of the Jordan. And one would guess such an action would throw the existing regime, the Hashemite kingdom of Jordan, into crisis. Would it survive? It's conceivable that it would collapse into the sort of chaos that we've seen in Syria, which suits Israel fine. So you've got a failed state at the moment in Lebanon, a failed state in Syria. And as far as Israel is concerned, it wouldn't be a bad thing to see a failed state in Jordan, however friendly in reality the Jordanian monarch is to Israel, and potentially, perhaps, even a failed state in Egypt. After all, if we look at the Sisi regime, yes, it's backed by the army, but clearly amongst the Egyptian masses themselves, this isn't a popular government, far from it. It's a government that rests on a very narrow social base. So what Israel brings at the moment in the Middle East is terrorism, is barbarism, is state collapse.